Senator Randy Brogdon, sitting over there to the end. Senator Brogdon is from Owasso. He represents the Senate District 34. He has been a member of the Senate since 2002 and has been a great supporter of the taxpayers' rights and has recently pushed legislation that would make Oklahoma government more transparent. As he put it, it puts windows on the Capitol. So we're all for that one. He was named the Legislative Newcomer of the Year by OPAC for his perfect conservative voting record. He has served as a Republican whip, and he is married to his high school sweetheart, Donna, for 34 years, and they have 2 grown sons. He has run his own business in the air conditioning industry for over 30 years. So go ahead, Senator Brogdon. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today. I am conservative, and I don't apologize for that. If any of you know me, you know that some of the issues, all the issues that I support are conservative in nature. I am a limited government Reaganite. I believe that the government over the years has grown at a rate that is unsustainable. It's unacceptable for me as a taxpayer, and I'm doing everything within my power to make those changes. Some of you may know that I was the author, and I am the author for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. This initiative is one that I could not get heard on. I could not get heard in the Senate for the last 2 years. So last year I was approached by several organizations, including this one here, asking if I would be interested in running an initiative petition. And I believe in the initiative process, and I decided that yes, I would want to be involved with that initiative. You probably have heard that we collected well over 300,000 legal signatures from Oklahoma voters, legal citizens, legal voters that were checked out and verified by the Secretary of State. Through the process, though, we had 85,000 signatures thrown out, 85,000 legal signatures thrown out by the Supreme Court. And the reason they were thrown out is because of the way that they were collected. And I won't go into great detail, but I did file a Taxpayer Bill of Rights bill again this year. It will not get a hearing this year, but I will tell you that it's a fight that I'm going to continue fighting as long as I am serving you in the Senate. The other bill that I want to briefly mention is the Senate Bill 1, which is the Taxpayer Transparency Act. I am extremely proud to be the author of this bill, and I can't take credit for it. Dr. Tom Coburn is the one who gave me this idea. It's a bill, my bill is actually modeled off the legislation that he got passed in Congress last year. And it will bring sunshine into state government spending. It will put new windows at the state capitol. We are going to create a database, or excuse me, a website where anyone, the average citizen that lives here in Oklahoma can go onto the website, do a word search, and find out where your taxpayer dollars are going, whether you want to look at a contract, a subcontract, grants. It doesn't matter what it is. Every dime will be accountable to you as a taxpayer. And I can tell you, as an elected official, as a state senator right now, that information is not available to me on a very easy basis. It is very difficult at best to try and find out where our tax dollars are going. So this legislation will bring accountability when it comes to spending, and I'm excited to be the author there. One final thing, I want to bring something to your attention that you may not know, that you may not hear about. We have a proliferation of what I consider to be corporate welfare spending in this state, and it's under the guise of economic development. I have found something out over the last 4 years that I have served you in the Senate. If we do it for the kids, or if we do it under economic development, just about anything can get passed through the legislature. And I want to give you a very brief overview of what I'm talking about when I say corporate welfare and economic development. Hey, I come from the private sector. I've been a business owner for the last 35 years in the Tulsa area. I've never taken a dime from the government to try and expand my business, and I don't expect any of my competition to take a dime from government to expand their business. But we as legislators While we are in session, we passed several of them last week. I was looking through and to see what the House did last week and the last couple of weeks. The House did the same thing. We are expanding government by tapping your pockets, taking your tax dollars in the name of economic development and giving it to individual companies so they can retool and expand. And oftentimes these are failing businesses, businesses that are on the verge of bankruptcy. But because we want to create jobs, because we think it's going to increase our tax base, government now is doing the business of what the free market used to do. And I want to make you aware of that because we are trying to make this more understandable throughout the state of Oklahoma. Very few people realize what the state legislature is doing behind closed doors. With that, I'll pass the mic on, but once again, thank you for you being here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you.
Next question. So how has the gambling revenue helped our schools? Why has tuition continued to rise? Where's all that revenue going?
I want to take this.
Senator Brogdon.
Get after him.
I think they're going to fight over who's going to answer this.
I was interviewed by the Daily Oklahoman just Friday on this particular question, or not on this question, but on one similar. Let me tell you what, the gambling initiative, we all knew, the legislators knew exactly what was going to happen. When we passed the lottery, that was going to open up Class 3 gaming. You know, I believe as a steward of the taxpayers' money, there's not a higher calling than we have as legislators to make sure that we properly appropriate your tax dollars. We also have a responsibility as legislators to uphold the oath that we swear to the Constitution. And as part of that oath, it is to make sure that we are protectors of the citizens of this great state. What we did when we passed the lottery bill was to become a predator upon you, and actually a predator to some of the poorest citizens of this state. We knew that when we did it, and of course I voted against it. And I think probably most people, I'm not sure of everyone's voting record up here, but let me just leave it and say that I voted against the lottery because I knew what was coming right behind the lottery. Class 3 gaming was coming. The governor sold both of these issues to the education community and promised them more money would flow into education. Now, I, for one, do not believe for a second that the ends justifies the means. Folks, we have to be responsible with what we're teaching our kids and the directions that we are leading them. I don't believe we should be picking up a vice such as gambling and promising more money to education. That is just not the way to do things. You know as well as I, you see it in the papers every day, the so-called lottery shortfall. Education is not getting the money that Governor Henry promised. Back on the campaign trail was $500 million. That's what he said the lottery would bring in. Then as the campaign progressed, well, he had to refine that down to $300 million. Then it was $150 million. And before it was all settled, towards the end of his campaign, it was $75 million. Well, last year, education got $30 million. And now the teachers, the educators, they're all saying, oh, where is the money for the lottery shortfall? Let me tell you what, there's no such thing as a lottery shortfall. The people of this state have wised up, and they are not gambling at the rate that the governor promised the teachers that we would be gambling. Gambling is not the way to fund our educational system. Shame on the legislature for voting, and for the people who voted for, actually, ultimately, for the next roll of the dice to be the way that we are going to fund education. It's a poor way to lead this state.